One of the things that we talk a lot about internally is that Jeff Bezos said it's better to figure out what doesn't change every 10 years than what does change. So people aren't going to want slower delivery 10 years from now, et cetera, or higher prices, or he said smaller selection. I tend to feel sometimes that I want smaller selection rather than tremendous selection. But what do you think hasn't changed over this period of time, in at least from an Indian context? I know that this was over many different countries, but where do you think things haven't changed in the way that we shop?
Well, lots of things don't change. I think countries are just at different points in a continuum of shopping, and many things remain constant, even though every country says I'm different and every category says I'm different. I think a lot of things are quite common. So what doesn't change, I think, is at two levels. One is supply creates demand because consumers have no clue what they want. Second, the most important driver of consumption is the income, the discretionary income, because you add on categories depending on how much of disposable income you really have and how that matches supply. And the third thing is that we have been seeing a steady hollowing of the middle in every single category, because the same consumer goes for value on occasions and goes for super premium in the same category, but nobody goes for the middle. So the middle is getting emptied in every single category, and any brand that was born in the middle and stayed in the middle is dying or is already dead. And then when you think about how you make money in all of these countries through the same thing, which is you take cost out, you differentiate and keep a very, very sharp focus on smaller ranges, tighter supply chain, and a price cost squeeze of 1 to 2%. And you keep your brand incredibly aspirational, because a brand that becomes fuddy-duddy will definitely die. So a lot of things are quite simple, and a lot of things are quite evergreen, and everything else is a lot of noise.
When you say stay in the middle, could you expand upon that? The brands stay in the middle.
So I'll give you if you think about any category, right, and you look at price points. So let's assume you have a price point of 10 and 15 and 30. What you will find over time for almost 99% of categories is that this good, better, best pricing, or this range, you will find in the way markets are evolving, it's in the same household, you will find that people will go for the 10 rupees for certain occasions and people will go for the 30 rupees for certain occasions. But very few people stay in the middle at 15. And so if you look at almost all categories, you're seeing simultaneous premiumization and commoditization. Simultaneous, often in the same household, because people buy different things for different occasions. So I'm buying rice, I'll buy super basmati when my boss is visiting, and I'll buy unbranded or packed in the store value brand for other occasions. I'm buying a soap, I'll buy Dove if I have a little baby or an old mother, and I will buy a 3-in-1 value pack. But the middle is getting empty. Similarly for tea, similarly for ghee, similarly for chocolate. So a lot of categories are getting hollowed out in the middle. And one of the biggest challenges of a 30, 40, 50-year-old brand is because it's large, especially large brands, they end up becoming averages because they're serving so many customer segments. And so a disproportionate amount of center of gravity of large brands is in the middle. And that's why they slowly die.
So, it's interesting, while you were saying that, one of the case studies that I remember kind of looking at was Cadbury chocolate. And have you followed chocolate industry at all in India?
Marginally. I mean, they're 2.5 players, so yes.
I was going to say, it wouldn't have taken much to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there brands that you think have been able to redefine? I was going to use Cadbury as an example, but you think there are brands that have been able to redefine their premiumness, or redefine themselves as a premium brand, or as a more expensive brand over time that surprised you?
In India, we have a terrific example in chocolates of what Ferrero Rocher did for almost 3-4 years. I think it was in the late 29, maybe 2009 to 2000, or 2008 to 2012. I mean, I think they really, really played such a superb game. I've not been following them recently, but at that point in time, you must have been alive at that time, but at that point in time, they a lot of it was actually with Big Bazaar and with some of the large stores. They actually reimagined the category. And if you went during festive season, you would have these huge displays of Ferrero Rocher. And because of the packaging, and it's golden and all of that, it was immediately repositioned as a big gifting item. And those years were almost golden years for Ferrero, because they grew at a crazy pace at the pricing that they had, which was significantly higher than anything Cadbury had introduced. And it was almost like it was positioned as the modern version of Indian mithai, and nicely packed in gold. And I thought that was
they put them as laddus, right? They put them
exactly.
Like you would put laddus, yeah.
Yeah, you would put in laddus. And if you went to a lot of people's homes, in front of Ganesh, instead of laddus, you would sometimes see Ferrero, because you could stack them up and they would look absolutely stunning. So I think Ferrero, whether it was, I don't think it was accidental. I think they had done a fantastic job of not playing by the category rules. They did not position it as a high-end chocolate, right? They positioned it they entered into the household through a very different occasion, which is what attacking brands usually do. And that damn product is very addictive. And so I'm assuming that they retain their customers for a good part of the rest of the year. And they were a perfect example how in a category like chocolate, you had an attacker who came in at a significantly higher price point and repositioned themselves completely.
Do you think one of the issues we face, so Ferrero Rocher is obviously a foreign brand, for all the distribution they've done and the branding, the quality, and which is something you brought up at the beginning of this podcast, is of a very high standard, and which is why, like you said, they retain their customers. Do you feel like this quality of product can come out of India as well for some of these brands?
You're going to be accused of being a racist if you don't stop.
I'm not. I'm Indian. I'm Indian. I can say anything about India. I can ask. No, because I see a lot of quality. I see a lot of products in India that do really well that we think are Indian. Like I thought Bata for many years was an Indian product, but isn't Indian. They come from somewhere else, and they do very well over here by Indianizing themselves, and we think that they're Indian. The other day, I was actually literally having a conversation with someone. He's 45 years old. He thought Jockey was Indian. And I said, no, I was, but do you feel like at times that, and I feel like things are changing. People are using less shortcuts. And so the quality of products today are very young, under 100 crore brands in the market. The quality of a lot of them are just unbelievable. Across, and I'm talking about direct to consumer food and other fast moving consumer products, goods companies that have come up have really improved. But do you feel like some of these brands have done really well here because we haven't been able to compete on product quality?
I mean, I don't think product quality is linked to state of origin. I think product quality is linked to two things. It's linked to mindset. If you want good quality and you're willing to pay for it, you have good quality. And second, how much you invest in your supply chain, because a lot of quality is actually defined by the weakest link in your chain. And sometimes that's not within the legal boundaries of your business. It's somewhere down the line on supply chain. So I don't think first of all, your point is absolutely right. And all the work we've done with consumers across the world, no consumer knows which is a global brand and which is a local brand. In India, I remember there was a shirt brand called Jack London, and it was seen to be a foreign brand. It belonged to a local Indian player, while Lux or Lifebuoy will be seen as an Indian brand, or Surf, because people have forgotten, or Nescafe. People will think Nescafe is an Indian brand. Chinese, right. A lot of Chinese consumers think Coke is a Chinese brand because they've grown up with it, right? So consumers don't know. They associate words and origin and familiarity with origin, but they don't know based on legal jurisdiction. So I don't think brands win or lose. I think perception of quality and real quality is heightened when it is a high involvement category. So it could be baby food, or it could be diamonds, or it could be, the doctor for a cancer treatment. At these moments, you are more bothered about quality. But I don't think there's any correlation between origin of company and extent of quality. I think the correlation is whether the owner cares, and it's a matter of pride or not, and whether they invest in the weakest part of their supply chain.
Do you feel like the quality of the ability to develop a strong supply chain across majority of consumer products today is well established in India? Do you think that there are areas that one needs to kind of work on? I know cold chain we've struggled with in companies in our portfolio, for example, and companies we've also looked at. But in general, how do you see that playing out in India right now? I know back in the day it must have been, there are issues, and so one can't move forward as a result or build their own supply chain. But today, is that also an issue?
I think it's an issue everywhere, and it's becoming a bigger issue because of the importance now to trace back to origin, right? And it'll be interesting to see how that evolves. But in India or in China or any of the emerging countries, it's fixable. There are millions of case studies of people who've got good quality out of these countries. You just need to invest capacity at the right place. So if you have a third-party manufacturer, good companies will have the quality control guy on their books, and he's placed 100% of the time in the store. You don't do random testing of 5 out of 1 million pieces. Your guy is working in that factory through every possible shift, and he's on your books. He's not on their books. You have a guy who's manufacturing small screws that go into your watches. You make sure that you have quality control on the lathe machine that they use, and you will do surprise audits. So if you look at how companies have managed this, because don't forget, in emerging markets, a lot of supply chain is also outsourced. Right. People, despite this, manage to get great quality by ensuring they have right specification. First of all, by ensuring that they have people in their ecosystem who are like-minded on quality and are not transactional. Second, by making sure specifications are completely aligned with how you pay people, how you pay your partners. Third, by making sure your commercial capability is twice as large as your financial capability, which means you have twice as many people in commercial contracting, supply chain management as you have in accounting and treasury management. And fourth, by making sure that you have maker checker and you trust that you verify it. So these are protocols that multinationals and Indian companies have perfected over the last 40 years. And anybody who says quality in India cannot be done is fooling himself, because it can be done. You just need to invest behind it and have protocols.
No, absolutely.